knowledge, strengthen our bodies, and calm our minds. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to name each posture discussed in Sanskrit and English, demonstrate each posture, state the muscle focus for each posture, and discuss and describe the sun salutation. We dive right in with our first lesson and get us into our bodies and out of our heads. We'll explore some poses, or asana, and the ways in which they challenge our bodies in flexibility or strength. Have a mat or a towel ready, and join me with an open mind as we embark on this new chapter together. We start with the warm-up, a crucial aspect to your physical practice. As we begin to move our bodies, we receive information from various bodily systems, for example, our muscles and joints, that we can use to guide ourselves safely into postures. Your warm-up sets the stage for your practice and starts to introduce gentle stretches and patterns of movement, which we build on to more challenging postures. We allow ourselves to move intuitively to get the maximum benefit out of our time on the mat. For example, in this lesson, we look at our half bow pose, which is in the warm-up, followed by a seated twist and chair pose in our seated and standing posture sections, respectively. In Lesson 9, we look at a revolved or twisted chair pose, thereby incorporating all the movement patterns from the 3 sections. When working with any kneeling posture, all the way from the warm-up to advanced asana, proper alignment is key. Please stay away from any discomfort in your joints, knees, hips, ankles, and wrists, and allow yourself to ease out of a posture to adjust yourself. To establish a 4-point kneeling base, line up your wrists underneath your shoulders, as viewed from the side and front, and line up your knees underneath your hips. All of our asana in this section will start from this position. Cat-cow, Bittilasana, Majariyasana. From our 4-point kneeling position, we begin to move through the spine. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, round your spine and gently tuck your tailbone. Cat pose. There should be a beautiful feeling of spreading your scapula and stretching your back muscles. Inhale to move through your neutral 4-point kneeling and begin to arch your back while looking forward. Think of threading your collarbones through and finding breath across your chest. Cow pose. These postures are performed after each other multiple times to warm up the spine and to stretch the back and chest muscles. Child's pose, Balasana. Draw your big toes together and widen your knees slightly. Bring your hips back to connect with your heels as you drop your torso down between your legs, folding forward. Child's pose is a restorative pose, which allows a passive stretch of the inner thighs, hips, shoulders, and underarms. Heart melting or extended puppy pose, Anahatasana. Maintain the position of your hips and walk your hands forward so your wrists are no longer underneath your shoulders. Allow your chest to lower towards the mat as you create a sloping line between your hips and your shoulders, just like a puppy doing a big stretch. Depending on how your neck feels, you can place your forehead or chin on the mat. This gentle back-bending asana stretches the entire front line of the body, the throat, chest, stomach, and hips, while opening the upper and mid-back. Hero pose, Virasana. Bring your hips back to your heels to find a kneeling seat. If this is inaccessible to you, bring a rolled-up blanket under your hips to pad the space. Bring your feet slightly wider than your hips and let the weight of your body settle you closer to the mat. Avoid any pain in this posture. Add as many props as you need for support and keep your feet directly under your hips if you find it more comfortable. This pose is wonderful for improving posture and is a deep stretch for quads, knees, and ankles. Half bow, Ardha Dhanurasana. Extend your right leg back and your left arm forward. Bend your right leg and reach back to take hold of your foot with your left hand. Gently kick your foot into your hand to increase the stretch across your chest and your shoulder, while avoiding any undue strain to the neck. Repeat on the other side. with your left leg back and right arm forward, to feel the differences in strength and flexibility between the sides of the body. As the name suggests, you should be able to find some ease in this posture, your easy seat or sukhasana. This is your seat of relaxation and meditation, and will be our basis for the seated postures. Seated forward bend, Paschimottanasana. Extend both of your legs forward, keeping them glued together, with a gentle flex to the ankles so the toes are pointing to the ceiling. Bend your knees as much as you need to feel comfortable. It's far more beneficial to have a straight spine than straight legs. Hinge forward from your hips to feel a stretch all the way from your calves to your hamstrings. We move to a more targeted forward fold, head to knee forward bend, Janu Sirsasana A. Extend your right leg forward, bend your left knee and allow it to relax towards the mat. The sole of your left foot can be placed anywhere along the inner seam of your right leg, depending on your hip and knee flexibility today. Hinge forward to feel all the benefits of the double leg variation, with the added bonus of stretching your inner thigh and hip. Always remember to balance out the sides of your body and try this asana on both sides. Bound angle or butterfly pose, Baddha Konasana. Bend your knees and bring the soles of your feet to touch. Allow your knees to fall out towards the mat. Rest your hands wherever feels comfortable on your legs, maybe your shins, maybe your feet, and hinge forward from your hips to feel a deep stretch into the inner thighs. Adjust the distance between your heels and hips as much as you need to feel comfortable. Wide angle seated forward fold, Upavista Konasana. This posture is an extension of your bound angle pose. Simply extend your legs on that same line out to the sides. It is referred to as a seated triangle pose because of the line you can draw between your toes and along the inner thigh to the groin. Another intense stretch for the inner thighs and groin. You'll notice that some of those Sanskrit words would have sounded familiar to you. The naming principles of yoga poses become quite intuitive once you're equipped with a glossary. Baddha means bound, because of your feet being connected. Upavista is seated. Konasana is triangle, and asana means pose or posture. Cow face pose, Gomukhasana. Now this is a tricky one to get into. Bend your knees and place your feet on the floor. Slide your left foot under the right knee to the outside of the right hip. Cross your right leg over the left, stacking the right knee on top of the left as much as possible, and bringing the right foot to the outside of the left hip. Take a look down and try to line up your heels from side to side. As I said, we are trying to stack the knees on top of each other as much as possible, but only if you can do so without any pain. Another great stretch for the ankles, thighs, and especially the outer hip. Once you feel comfortable, there's an option for a bind with your arms, which we'll speak more about in Module 2. Remember to try it out on both sides. Seated twist, Ardha Matsyasana. Extend both of your legs forward. Bend your right knee and place your foot next to your left thigh. You can stay here, or if you're comfortable moving with me, bend your left knee and position your left ankle next to your right glute. Your right foot should stay planted on the floor. Extend your left arm up and your right fingertips behind you. Twist from the waist and see if you can hook your left elbow to the outside of your top right knee. If that isn't comfortable for your spine as it feels today, decrease the twist and simply wrap your left arm around the knee. Remember to try this on both sides. This position is great for spinal health. The seated twist is different to Gomukhasana or cow face pose in the way that we aren't trying to line up the hips or the knees, but rather focus on the rotation of the torso to improve spinal health and mobility. 4-point bases. These postures differ from kneeling or seated asana, as both hands and feet are connected with the mat, but hips and knees are lifted. These postures help to build full body strength. Plank, Palakasana. This isn't the scary, exhausting version from your boot camp classes, don't worry. In yoga, the plank is used as a transition from downward facing dog to upward facing dog and vice versa. Ensure that your wrists are underneath your shoulders as you firmly push your hands into the mat. Apply pressure with all 10 fingertips and keep your elbows straight. Stay strong through the legs, core and arms, and avoid dropping your hips towards the mat. This is a great full body strengthening exercise. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. From your plank position or 4-point kneeling, as core and arms, and avoid dropping your hips towards the mat. This is a great full body strengthening exercise. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. From your plank position or 4-point kneeling, as discussed at the beginning of this lesson, begin to lift your knees and hips as you press your chest back towards your thighs. Point your sitting bones to the ceiling and try to find an upside down V shape with your body. Keep a slight bend in your knees for comfort and work to stay active down the sides of the body to avoid dumping weight into your shoulder joints. This posture builds strength to find an upside down V shape with your body. Keep a slight bend in your knees for comfort and work to stay active down the sides of the body to avoid dumping weight into your shoulder joints. This posture builds strength and stretches the back of the legs. As we work on hamstring flexibility and arm strength, you may start to be able to bring your heels all the way down to connect. This is the pose that you will most likely be led through the most in a yoga class. So take your time to feel comfortable with it as a static position as well as a transition. Upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. You can enter into upward facing dog from many postures. Plank, kneeling plank, or from lying prone, on your stomach, on the floor. Today we'll be moving from lying on the floor. Place your palms on either side of your chest with your fingertips in line with your shoulders. Your elbows are bent and connected with the sides of your body. Push into your hands and the tops of your feet as you straighten your elbows. Allow your hips to dip slightly towards the mat while keeping your thighs in the air, creating a supported back bend. Ensure that you maintain some space between your shoulders and your ears and gaze forward to avoid any tension in your neck. This is a wonderful strength-building asana, as well as stretching across the chest. If this asana doesn't feel comfortable in your body today, or in days to come, please don't be discouraged. There are many modifications you can use for this pose and many others, which we will discuss in Module 2. You may hear some Sanskrit words being echoed again. Urdhva is upward, Adho, downward, Mukha, dog, asana, pose or posture. Put it all together and you may start to recognize some of the words that could be thrown at you in a yoga class. In this section, we move from a strong standing position. With a small gap between your feet, start to gently transfer your weight from side to side. Feel the way the different muscles start to turn on when you move far from your center. Start to shift your weight forward and backward, between the heels and the balls of the feet. Finally, find your true center. Evenly ground down through all 4 corners of both feet as we prepare to move from this posture, mountain pose or Tadasana. A variation of mountain pose is high mountain, where we stand and reach the arms overhead. Standing forward bend, Uttanasana. Separate your feet to hip width distance apart and hinge from the hips as you run your hands down the back of the legs into a forward fold. Keep as much of a bend in the knees as you need to feel comfortable. The standing version of our Paschimottanasana, or seated forward bend, targets all the same areas, hips and hamstrings. As a variation, we find Ardha Uttanasana, a halfway lift with your chest, allowing your hands to slide up to your shins. Feel length along the spine and an extra gentle stretch across the chest. Warrior 1, Virabhadrasana 1. Both Warrior 1 and 2 can be used during a flowing sequence. However, for the purposes of proper alignment today, we'll be setting ourselves up in the asana from a static standing position. Take a big step forward with your right leg. Big will depend on your leg length, but adjust the space between your feet as much as you need to feel comfortable. Take a look at your feet. You should be able to draw a straight line from your right heel to the middle of your left instep. Your right toes are facing forward to the top of your mat, while your back left foot is pointing out at a 45-degree angle. Once you feel comfortable in this alignment, bend your right knee until your knee is in line with your ankle and reach your arms overhead. Press through the back blade of your left foot to avoid dropping your back knee towards the mat. This pose stretches legs, ankles, shoulders, and arms while strengthening the legs and the ankles. All these anatomical cues may feel overwhelming in the beginning, but the good news is that with Shaw Academy you can rewatch these videos as much as you'd like. Take as much time as you need to set up this closed hip position until you are able to find some ease. Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. We start with the same big step forward, but adjust our arm and hip placement to make this an open hip asana. Once again, set yourself up with the same alignment as Warrior 1. Your right toes are facing forward to the top of your mat, while your back toes are pointing out at a 45-degree angle. Open your hips and your shoulders to the long edge of your mat as you bend your front right knee until your knee is in line with your ankle. Raise your arms parallel to the floor and reach them actively out to the sides with your palms down. Take some time on both sides to feel the difference between Warrior 1 and Warrior 2 in your body. Does one feel more comfortable than the other? Are these poses easier for you on one side or the other? As you look to answer these questions, you gain valuable insight into your own body's mechanics. Both Warrior 1 and 2 strengthen and stretch the legs and ankles. While Warrior 1 focuses more on stretching shoulders and arms, Warrior 2 focuses on stretching the hips and groin. Chair pose, Utkatasana. From Tadasana, bend your knees and send your hips towards the mat as you find a deep, stable squat. Brush your fingertips along the mat and continue to reach your arms up and overhead with your palms facing inward. Avoid flaring your ribs open and be sure to maintain some space between your shoulders and ears. You will quickly feel that this pose strengthens your thighs and stretches your ankles. Coming up next, we discuss types of modern postural yoga, from the traditional, like Ashtanga and Hatha, to the not-so-traditional, goat yoga and yoga raves. Sun salutations. We take all the information and beautiful shapes we've learned thus far and combine it into two dynamic sequences, Surya Namaskar A and B. In Sanskrit, Surya means sun, and Namaskar is a salute or greeting. This practice forms the basis of the Ashtanga yoga tradition. Either Surya Namaskar A or B is performed in between each posture, leading to a very dynamic and challenging practice. As with many aspects of yoga, the origins of the sun salutation seem to be vague. Some scholars believe that the practice dates back to 2,500 or some even say 3,500 years ago, while some state that Surya Namaskar, as we know them now, only came to be in the early 20th century. These claims are difficult to verify, but one thing is for certain, it is an invaluable practice to build strength in the body. The sequence is often referred to as a moving meditation due to its repetitive nature. A common practice is to repeat the Surya Namaskar 108 times. The significance of the 108 being manifold. Mala bead necklaces have 108 beads, which are used to count during meditation. There are 108 canonical Upanishads, or holy texts, and in Ayurveda, there are 108 sacred points on the body, all to be discussed in Module 2. Surya Namaskar A. The sun salutations unite breath and movement to allow us to find our flow. You may have already encountered this type of yoga flow in a class, or some variation of it. Inhale, sweep your arms up, high mountain. Exhale, fold forward, standing forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Long exhale, fold forward, plant your hands underneath your shoulders and step back into a kneeling or high plank. Lower your body to the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, bring more weight into your hands and tops of your feet as you lift your chest through and up, upward facing dog. Exhale, lift your hips and push back into downward facing dog. Inhale, take as many steps as you need to your halfway lift at the top of your mat. Exhale, fold forward, standing forward bend. Inhale, high mountain. Exhale, Tadasana. Surya Namaskar B, a slightly more challenging flow, incorporating more of our standing postures. Inhale, bend your knees and reach your arms overhead, Utkatasana. Exhale, fold forward, standing forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step back and lower down to the mat. Inhale, bring more weight into your hands and tops of your feet as you lift your chest through and up, upward facing dog. Exhale, lift your hips up and push back into downward facing dog. Inhale, step your right leg between your hands, ground your back left foot and lift up, warrior one. Exhale, plant your hands, step back, lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, lift your hips, downward facing dog. We repeat on the other side. Inhale, step your left leg between your hands, ground your back right foot, and lift up, warrior one. Exhale, plant your hands to the mat, step back, lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, take as many steps as you need to get to the halfway lift at the top of your mat. Exhale, standing forward bend. Inhale, bend your knees and reach your arms overhead, Utkatasana. Exhale, Tadasana. I hope that this lesson has ignited your curiosity and given you a glimpse of the wonderful benefits that yoga has to offer. I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Thank you so much for joining me for Lesson 1. I look forward to sharing Lesson 2 with you as we grow in our knowledge of yoga.